An introduction to artscaping, a unique approach to being creative in the outdoors that has been developed by us, Arts and Wellbeing Charity Cambridge Curiosity and Imagination, as we've worked with artists and children and their communities across the east of England.
Hi, I'm Ruth Sapsed, Director of Cambridge Curiosity and Imagination.
And I'm Lucy Wheeler, a creative producer working with CCI on the Artscaper programme.
You're going to hear from artists, children, teachers, head teachers, colleagues and researchers all talking about artscaping, what it is, why it's important and how you can find out more.
We really hope that after watching this webinar, you have a real desire to have a go at artscaping yourself, and that you know exactly where to find all of the resources and publications that CCI have produced, all accessible on their website, that you can use to get artscaping started in your own school or setting.
Artscaping is the practice of making art in nature, co-created by CCI artists, children and young people. These images playing across your screen now give a flavour of what it looked like in some of the primary and secondary schools we've worked with recently. Artscaping has three key characteristics: to affect and be affected by arts, nature, place and space. To create a response from materials and feelings to express new ideas. To enhance local environments in ways that bring joy. We made up this word back in 2015 as the name of a programme we'd been commissioned to create by the University of Cambridge. Cambridge was changing and growing, and the university wanted an education programme for children living and studying nearby to a new area they were developing. It's a brilliant word, as it encapsulates beautifully the ideas of art, place and agency, of how to be an active and creative citizen whoever you are and wherever you may be, who is making something to enhance your world. We use this working definition now for it, and one day hope to see it in the dictionary. Our values as an organisation are held in this image and help to provide context to artscaping. CCI began in the early 2000s, first as a group and then as a charity. We came together because we were concerned with how children's freedoms were being eroded. Freedom to imagine and ask questions, freedom to explore and express their own ideas in creative ways, freedom even to move around their world. These freedoms are even more fragile today, so our values and commitment to them has become more important than ever. These threads are woven into everything we do.
Children and young people are at the heart of our work, with a commitment to working collaboratively and as companions alongside them. We commit always to being generous with space, time and attention, and inviting explorations through movement, ideas, art and nature. We recognise the importance of slowness, a word you'll hear often through this webinar, and which resonates so strongly with everyone that we work with, and an acknowledgement of the importance of the emotional dimensions of learning. We value opportunities to reimagine the familiar, working with our powerful imaginations and the sense of fantastical opportunities and possibilities.
We've learned so much about artscaping from the children we've worked with. Children from Mayfield Primary School created this manifesto back in 2019 when they spent a day being artists in residence at the University of Cambridge Faculty of Education. They were thinking about how they wanted to be in the world as learners. We've shared it widely. The children first read it to parliamentarians at an all-party parliamentary group meeting for art, craft and design in education in Westminster just after they wrote it, and it has gone on to be published and discussed in many forums. We find people love the simplicity, but also the wisdom and generosity of their words. They are asking for freedom, for us to be brave and trust them, and for time to make mistakes, try things out, and keep trying.
We spoke in 2022 at another all-party parliamentary group for arts, health and wellbeing with young artscapers from Mayfield. Again, they communicated eloquently and simply the importance of being outside and the opportunities for freedom, individuality, and community that this offers. Here are the children themselves explaining this.
It feels really good because you're given kind of freedom, because in like lessons, you're told what to do and you're given a worksheet usually, but when you're outside, you're just given a tiny bit of input and then you can do the rest yourself. I think that when it's outside, it gives you so much more opportunities to be creative and show your true personality than sitting in a classroom learning times tables. And it's really important that we all build on our love for the outside, because it means that we can all have a deeper appreciation for our world. And if somebody says being outside isn't real learning, I say that learning isn't sitting in a classroom and learning 12 times 12. Learning is discovery, and learning is finding out new things. And there are so many new skills that you wouldn't learn if you didn't do them outside.
Artscaping takes place in the outdoors. We focus on how the natural world closest to us, but often taken for granted, the world just outside the door, can be opened up as a space for curiosity and imagination. Here is artist Sally Todd describing how the local nature reserve beside the back fence of Shirley Primary School in West Cambridge became a stimulating and intriguing studio space where adventures could happen.
I always think of the outside and the environment as a very generous place, because it's ever changing. It's a place to explore and imagine and dream in. And the children actually began to call it a kind of a portal. There were so many amazing pathways and mysterious openings. And yeah, it did begin to feel a bit like a TARDIS because of nature and the kind of wildness of this place. You couldn't quite feel the edges. So it seemed like a very expansive place for the imagination. The thing that we have in common as artists working with CCI is that we use very much this sense of slowing down in nature, using space and time as much as we had, trying to bend the curriculum to offer children a kind of generous invitation to really slow down and to explore.
This idea of slowness, a commitment to make time for creative practices and space for children's thinking to be fully explored and noticed, is an essential ingredient.
You don't need a dedicated nature area to visit. Going outside of the classroom is how to begin. We encourage you too to make the most of the nearby spaces you do have. If you're lucky enough to have a wood, a nature reserve or churchyard on your doorstep, then perhaps artscapers can spend time there. Ask the children where they might like to explore. They'll be bound to know of hidden corners and tucked away spaces in their playgrounds that you may not yet have noticed. The most important element is that you take the children outside regularly. We advocate for at least a weekly artscaping session for all children.
Paul Jones, head teacher of Hampton Primary School in Peterborough, reflects here on offering artscaping on a new school site with less mature outdoor spaces.
I was really concerned about the immaturity of our site and the fact we didn't have a beautiful secret garden and we didn't have lots of established trees, but that wasn't a problem. And we also, one of the things we talked about is the British weather a problem and a barrier? Absolutely not. Snow, wind, rain, you can go out and you can do that. It was a great tool for children's mental health. It gave them a literal space outside as well as a headspace to be outdoors and move around without physical boundaries and physical difficulties. They had a sense of freedom. Their independence and confidence grew.
Paul leads us on nicely to think about what artscaping feels like. His articulation of this practice of providing both real and imaginary spaces for children is important, as is the use of the word freedom, which is often used by children when describing their experiences of artscaping.
In the classroom, it's loud, it's noisy, and it might be warm or cold. But outside, the sky is open, there are trees, and if you have all of these senses on, and you can see how it's always different every time you go outside, it's so much more memorable, and you're much more likely to remember and enjoy your experiences.
This idea of this way of working, providing opportunities to be creative, is important. Artscaping supports children to engage with their creative selves, to explore ideas they find fascinating and express their ideas in ways that interest them. For this to be successful, we generously support children to take their creativity in multiple directions and value experimentation, adventure, play, and flow more than a preconceived outcome. Paul talks here about what this looks like in practice.
But we have so many amazing bits of artwork, and every single one is different. And to me, that's really important. I was a reception teacher for a number of years and got really frustrated working at my previous school, where we did what I call conveyor belt art, where children come in, this is the picture you're going to make, they make it, and all 30 look identical. No expression, no creativity, just following a plan. Artscaping has taught our children that they can express their own thoughts, their own creativity, their own ideas. It just fills me with pride. They're also smiling. That's really important. They enjoyed the sessions they had.
The Mayfield primary children also discussed the importance of nature connectedness when they met parliamentarians, both for their learning and in terms of connecting and caring for our planet. Let's hear them further explain the benefits of working outdoors.
Because if you're outside, you get the sense, you have the wind blowing in your face, you can just relax, you can be happy. But whereas if you're in the classroom, you might get stressed doing the work because it's like you don't have any freedom about the work, you just have to do it. And if you find it really tricky to do, you might not be able to do it. But whereas if you're outside, you can find different ways to do it, and it probably won't be as stressful. Yeah, and when you're outside, you can work with other people or on your own. But when you're in the classroom, you either go with the person next to you if they're there, or you're just trying to figure it out yourself. But when you're outside, you have lots of other people, and it's just better.
The children's use of the words calming, freedom, and the phrase turning your senses on are key to some of the wider benefits of artscaping that we want to talk a bit more about now, with a particular focus on the well-being benefits of creativity and time spent outdoors.
One of the age groups that has seen the biggest rise in mental health problems since the pandemic is primary age children. And schools have been identified as playing a key role in providing mental health support, yet they receive few resources to do so. Aligned with this is the decrease in children spending time outdoors, which, according to research, has dropped as much as 75% over the last 30 to 40 years. Recent studies of the impact of COVID-19 on children's mental health have found that regular time outdoors is associated with better mental health, whereas increases in daily screen time and less time outdoors were associated with poorer mental health.
Working collaboratively with mental health charities and colleagues, we've developed creative and integrated models of work to support good well-being for children and young people in our county. Here is Matt Edge, Director of Family Therapeutic Charity Cambridge Acorn Project, one of our partners, discussing how he believes artscaping can be therapeutic for children.
I'm not a trained artist. I am not a kind of formal artscaper, but what I can talk about is how inspired I have been by this approach, precisely because it is very, very therapeutic. But what do I mean by that? So as a process, I think it very closely resembles therapy. So children and adults are given soothing and peaceful activities to do, but in a non-coercive way. So children are in charge of the process, but there are also clear boundaries in place. The relationship between the young people that are involved in the session and the artist, who values those young people, doesn't judge them, and offers them this in kind of credible space, but also what Carl Rogers, who's kind of a humanistic counsellor, came up with this amazing phrase, this lovely phrase, unconditional positive regard. So that regardless of, you know, your background, who you are, what's happened to you in this space, you are going to be treated absolutely unconditionally with positivity, which is a very important principle. And that's something that I feel kind of oozes out of Artscaping and CCI as an organisation as well.
Dr. Nicola Walsh shares next some of the key findings from their research into the practice of artscaping.
So I've been working with CCI for a number of years now, since 2016, really trying to understand the impact of their arts in nature or artscaping practice on children's wellbeing. And I've done that through two main projects, Eco Capabilities and Branching Out. So Eco Capabilities was the first project where we looked at how children's wellbeing can be supported through the arts in nature practice. And the project really stemmed from a concern in three areas. First of all, a concern with children's mental health and wellbeing. Second, a concern with children's increasing disconnect from nature. And third of all, a concern about marginalisation of the arts in schools. And through those, we developed two really key questions. So how does arts in nature practice support children's mental health and well-being? And how does it affect children's connections with nature, which of course are really important in terms of the potential for them leading on to more environmental behaviours. And the way that we work through Eco Capabilities is that CCI artists spent full days with children in primary schools, two primary schools in East Anglia, for 8 consecutive weeks. So 1 day a week for 8 weeks, really exploring with the children that arts in nature practice and taking time out of the curriculum to spend time doing that. Alongside that, the researchers intensively researched the impact of that arts in nature practice on the children through participant observation. We asked the children to draw about their happy places, how they felt, and we interviewed and did focus groups with the adults, the artists and the researchers and the teachers as well. And we found through that research that through the arts and nature practice, children developed 8 what we call eco capabilities. They're a bit like competencies or capabilities, and you can see them there listed on the left and then in diagrammatic or pictorial form on the right. And they're things like autonomy, which is thinking about the confidence, and children, particularly those children who didn't normally feel able to be confident within class, really started to blossom and change and develop confidence within their classroom environment. They increased or improved relationships with each other, but also with nature. And on the next slide, you can see a little example of that. So children throughout the arts and nature practice started to notice nature more. So they started to look really carefully at both the animals and the plants and noticed them. And then throughout the 8 weeks, they then started to talk about protecting them. An example there of a quote from a child saying, "Remember, we are nature, so we don't destroy it, we take care of it." So they started to see themselves as part of nature and wanted to take care of it. Other things we found through that Eco Capabilities project was that children's wellbeing was improved by the development of self-confidence and self-esteem. They had more agency within those arts in nature days. They enjoyed the slowliness and the calmness of the practice and the connectedness with nature, and that all contributed to their well-being. And children also felt happier with their life, they told us, and were more optimistic about what the future holds for them. So it gave them that resilience as they went through those 8 weeks. But of course, Eco Capabilities was working with artists, which is really a real privilege, intensively, 1 day a week for 8 weeks. But it's very difficult to do that in terms of school context. So the next project we developed with CCI and taking on also project partners Fullscope and Cambridge Acorn project was Branching Out. And we wanted to explore through Branching Out how CCI and Fullscope partners can adapt their practice to allow wider impact across more school contexts using community artscapers or volunteers and teaching assistants. And we also wanted to see how we could set up sustainable partnerships across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough between schools, local authorities, NHS trusts, and the voluntary community and social enterprise sector, which then could provide a model for stakeholder engagement at a national level that was multi-professional, multi-agency. And through the Branching Out project, we found a number of key findings. So the community artscaper or volunteer and teaching assistant model was deemed acceptable and appropriate by over 95% of respondents who were school-based mental health, safeguarding, SEND inclusion leads within schools. Using the model, Artscaping also had a really positive impact on both children, so their confidence, relationships, happiness, creativity, the sorts of things we found in eco-capabilities, but also adults' confidence, well-being, understanding of mental health provision for children. So it was also supporting the adults as well. But branching out also identified a need for more and better professional development for teachers, greater attention to multi-agency level working to support embedding arts and nature practice into schools and communities at scale. And so I'll finish off with a couple of quotes, firstly from the child, because the children really clearly articulate the benefits of artscaping when we talk to them. And this one here, being in nature, you're free to explore and have fun, you have no limits. But on the right, from branching out, a head teacher talking about the impact of this sort of practice and this model in terms of getting them to think differently about mental health support. It doesn't always have to be something that's through referral processes and external agencies and huge amounts of funding. So combined, those and the wider research showing the huge impact of artscaping and this arts in nature practice on children, schools and wider communities.
Our school partners additionally tell us of the importance of this work. Here's a short clip from teachers Emily and Anna from Eco Capabilities partner Shirley Primary School talking about the knock-on impact of this work on children's engagement with curriculum subjects.
First and foremost, the activities were a leveller for all children. And we found this was particularly evident for children with special educational needs. We found that these children benefited from a more child-centred approach to learning where there was no right or wrong answer. And they were able to complete activities where, you know, their proficiency in English or maths was not a barrier to their success, which in turn then enabled pupils to feel much more confident over the course of the project. As they thought, as weeks progressed, we got to see them sharing ideas with the wider class and have their achievements celebrated, especially with children who maybe would perform very well in English or maths. Generally in the classroom, their successes were equally as valid with their art, which was fantastic to see. So we saw this led to increased confidence, and these children had much more self-belief, which then was transferred into other areas of the curriculum, such as English and maths.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these children with special educational needs, we actually tend to spend a lot of time with them in class. However, there are also those children who tend to just get on with the work, not necessarily high flyers, not children who necessarily need a lot of our support, but children who may be slightly reluctant learners, but didn't always have a lot of our time in the classroom. It was really lovely to foster stronger relationships with those children, those sort of harder to reach children. And we can think of a few boys in particular who, through the art project, were actually initiating conversations with us, which came as such a lovely surprise, because we had the space, they had the space, the freedom, and they would come to us during the project with an observation, something they'd found. So yeah, that was equally special, being able to foster that strong relationship with those hard to reach children.
And have the time to do so as well.
Yes.
Most recently, we've been working with schools to train other adults to support artscapers. We think of them as community artscapers. Through the Branching Out programme, we've learned how parent volunteers, teaching assistants and classroom teachers can run their own small nurture groups and make a real difference for the children they are supporting. David Aston, head teacher at Will Burton C of E Primary, was part of this work in 2023, and here he shares his school's journey.
Staff have taken that and have started to run with it in our school now. And that's now getting us to the next stage, where we are embedding artscaping across our whole curriculum. Next Tuesday, we have a staff meeting run by two of our teaching staff who went for a day in the woods back in February to learn more about artscaping. And having had all the staff work with the artists on the Amplifying Artscaping Day, it means that we're in a great position to roll this out to a weekly activity for all our children, helping to support their well-being week in, week out across our school. So it's had a wider impact now on the school.
We believe artscaping is an important experience for everyone, whatever their age. We're proud to have introduced Artscaping to nurseries and primary and secondary schools across the county, supporting schools to deliver full class experiences as well as smaller art in nature nurture groups. We've invited university students to try out Artscaping and many adults too. We notice time and again how adults need these experiences, commenting like the children do on how they feel calmer, more connected and more creative in our sessions. We've produced a number of different resources and tools to support you to introduce Artscaping. These are all free to explore on our website. To start, we suggest the following two.
The first is our toolkit. This can be read in conjunction with this webinar and provides an overview of our Branching Out project with further practical advice on how you might start Artscaping in your school. The second is our companionship compass. This tool was developed in collaboration with children from Mayfield Primary School. Here they are discussing what an adult role is when Artscaping.
I think that don't give them set rules, give them a frame that they can build off of and create their own world that will really help them broaden their imagination.
If you just tell a child, do this, do it like this, and don't do anything different from this, they won't find learning fun, they won't enjoy the learning, they won't connect with the learning. But if you give them a loose structure for them to build on, they can build around the structure and do the work and have fun doing the work.
The compass was created to support adults to take on this way of being a companion to young artscapers. It provides an anchoring of how we need to behave in order to best support children and young people to have artscaping adventures. It is designed to be cut and joined together to create inner circles to turn and explore. Paula Aliff, co-head teacher of Mayfield Primary School, explains here how the compass can help anyone new to the practice.
This layer is telling us, giving us some really good guidance about how to be with children. The children have told us what they need, and hold back. It says try hard not to do things for the children. That's really important. Celebrate, find something to praise. There's always something to praise when you artscape together. Listen and respond. Keep your antennae alert, it says. Offer different materials or suggestions when people appear to get a bit stuck. Be kind. That's key. Be friendly and approachable. Don't criticize. Don't be negative. Don't hurry the children. That's really important. We've learned about a term called slowliness, and we try and take that as we work in school now. And then the next layer is about offering great creative freedom. And it's important because the children have told us constantly to allow them to find their own way. Let them go off if they need to and have adventures. Let them surprise you. They'll take an idea that you've brought, you might have in your mind a great idea of how that idea is going to go. The children will take it and go off in different directions with it. Let them do that. It's okay. It's just a springboard what you've given them to their creative ideas. Be prepared to go with the child's creative idea. You might have this fixed idea of what the session should look like, but if a child has got a brilliant idea, go with it. Be brave. Let them lead you. Everything is a work in progress. Embrace the journey. Be fluid, open, and ready to change direction if necessary. That's all good practice. And then find your own way, but really doing this side by side, not lecturing, not teaching, doing it side by side with the child. And together you're journeying, you're using your compass. And this is why it's called a companionship compass for artscapers of all ages.
We invite you also to take advantage of other webinars available on our website and take inspiration from creative prompts. There's Shirley Pocket Adventures, and there's invitations to create, and these can all be found in our publications section on the website. If you'd like to read more about a school's journey to embedding artscaping for everyone in the curriculum, please take a look at our publication Being and Becoming. Do also join the CCI mailing list to find out about up-and-coming in-person training opportunities to consider ways you might integrate artscaping into your curriculum.
We'd love to hear about your artscaping adventures, so please do get in touch and let us know how you get on.
Thank you so much for listening.